TBR time. I've just filmed what I've read in November, so now I'm going to go through exactly what it is I'm going to be reading in December. Last month of the year, very exciting. I've completely reformed this year. I used to be just a film watcher and scriptwriter, but now I read books and I try and write stories and again continue to fail. What is it I'm going to be reading in December? You may ask. You may not care. In that case, I don't need to be here. I picked 5 books. We will see if I actually choose to stick with them because usually I sort of veer off a bit. I think I'm going to start with this. This is Sabbath Theatre by Philip Roth. I was gushing about Philip Roth in my last video, my November TBR.
It's all gushy.
What the bloody hell's going on?
You should understand I'm a big fan of what I've read of him. Sabbath Theatre is probably his most famous work, aside from maybe American Pastoral, and it's about a man called Mickey Sabbath. As much as he wants to be the Marquis de Sade, he is not. It's a good angle to go for, really. As much as he wants to be 17, he is not. As much as he wants to be dead, he is not. He is Mickey Sabbath, once a scandalously inventive puppeteer.
Yes, I know you're abominable.
Sabbath, at 64, is still defiantly antagonistic and exceedingly libidinous.
I wake up feeling so horny!
But after the death of his longtime mistress, an erotic three-spirit whose adulterous daring... Oh, goddammit, it continued on the back flap, you've got to be joking. Whose adulterous daring exceeds even his own, Sabbath embarks on a turbulent journey into his past. Bereft and grieving, besieged by the ghosts of those who loved and hated him most, he contrives a succession of farcical disasters that take him to the brink of madness and extinction. This is going to be a very casual, chill read, obviously. I had to go for the hardcover for this because I just think this cover is so nice, and I just love the drawing on here. I think it's really cool. And I've heard Harold Bloom talk about this book with absolute high praises.
I mean, of contemporary American fiction, of fiction written by human beings, I would list Philip Roth's Sabbath Theatre and American Pastoral. I would list Don DeLillo's Underworld.
Next, I'm going to be reading this. This is the new Murakami book, The City and Its Uncertain Walls.
What the hell?
I've never read anything by Murakami. So why am I taking a chance on his new one? Because the premise sounded interesting. When a young man's girlfriend mysteriously vanishes, he sets his heart on finding the imaginary city where her true self lives.
You serious?
His search will lead him to take a job in a remote library with mysteries of its own. When he finally makes it to the walled city, a shadowless place of horned beasts and willow trees, he finds his beloved working in a different library, a dream library. But she has no memory of their life together in the other world, and as the lines between reality and fantasy start to blur, he must decide what he's willing to lose. A love story, a quest, an ode to books and to the libraries that house them, the city and its uncertain walls is a parable for these strange times. I don't really know what I'm going to think of this. I'm interested in the premise. I think it sounds cool. And I do have a fondness for magical realism. My girlfriend's also a fan of magical realism, so I said to her, if I like this, and I think you'll like it, you can read it. The cover for this is absolutely gorgeous, and so is the rear side as well. It's just beautiful, this sort of painted, drawn aesthetic, and it's just gorgeous. So I'm excited to read this, let you know what I think of my first Murakami book. Next one on the list, and this is where we get into the romance section for furthering my research into the genre. This is another Lynn Painter book. This is Better Than the Movies.
Look how they massacred my boy.
This is one of my girlfriend's favourite books. The plot here, Liz Buxbaum has always known that Wes Bennett was not boyfriend material. You would think that her next-door neighbour would be a prime candidate for her romantic comedy fantasies, but Wes has only proven himself to be a pain in the butt ever since they were little. Okay, so I appreciate I've just come off some classic literary fiction. Hang on, we'll get into this. Wes was the kid who put a frog in her Barbie dream house. God's sake.
Now knock it off!
The monster who hid a lawn gnome's severed head in a little homemade neighbourhood book exchange. That's kind of f***ed up. This guy sounds mental. I'm not liking this. Flash forward 10 years from the great gnome decapitation. Jesus Christ. Okay. It's Liz's senior year, a time meant to be rife with milestones, perfect for any big screen. And she needs Wes's help. See, Liz's forever crush, I don't know, this whole forever crush, I've heard a lot of like, this is my forever home. They put the forever in front of everything and then it makes it official. I don't know. Liz's forever crush, Michael, has just moved back to town and, horribly, annoyingly, he's hitting it off with Wes, meaning that if Liz wants Michael to finally notice her and hopefully be her prom date, she needs Wes. He's her in.
No time for the old in and out, love.
But as Liz and Wes scheme to get Liz her magical prom moment, she's shocked to discover she actually likes Wes being around. What?
What?
You've got to be joking. In a romance book, the unexpected person is the one that they fall in love with. What? And as they continue to grow closer, she must re-examine everything she thought she knew about love and rethink her own perception of what happily ever after should really look like. Okay, so cheesy, nice-ish romance. I'm hoping that I get more into the genre as I go, because it's still a thing of I'm not in love with the style that they're written in. It feels like someone's mum got a blog and someone said, hey, they're good, they should write a novel. And that's what we've ended up with. I'm kind of curious just because it has the word movie in the title. So I'm hoping that it doesn't piss me off. We'll see. More romance. Again, I'm really dedicated to my research. That's why I'm doing this. The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. Oh, this is the sign of quality, as seen on TikTok. With that stamp of approval, here's the plot. Bree Camden is helplessly and secretly in love with her longtime best friend and NFL legend, Nathan Donaldson. And that's the least of her problems after a car accident ended her chance of becoming a ballerina. Jesus, that's dark. Bree now runs her own dance studio. Runs, yeah, right. If she can afford the rent to keep it open, that is. When Nathan comes to the rescue and buys the entire building, the stubborn Bree is not happy with it. I love that they put the emphasis on the not. They put it in italics. Rebelling.
Who is able?
Rebelling with a couple, okay, maybe more than a couple of tequila shots. Oh, God.
Knock it off!
Why do you write like this? It's so cringe.
That's cringe.
She spills her deepest, darkest secrets to a TMZ reporter. That's foolish. You shouldn't do that. Only do it to a legitimate reporter. One viral video later, the world thinks Nathan and Bree are the perfect couple, and Nathan's publicist has an idea that could mean financial security for Bree. The catch? They have to pretend to be in love for 3 whole weeks. Okay. Fake dating. Am I a fan of the trope? I don't know, because I haven't really read any. And to the top of the blurb, I hate that literature does this nowadays. Discover the friends to lovers romance that became a sensation on TikTok. Thank God, I was desperate to find out what TikTok thinks. Final book I've got on my TBR for this month, Don DeLillo's Cosmopolis. There we go. The reason why I know of The reason why I know of Cosmopolis is because it was adapted into a 2012 film by David Cronenberg, one of my favourite directors, and that stars Robert Pattinson and, what's the other guy's name? So the premise is that Eric Packard, a billionaire, is going through New York in a limousine because he needs a haircut. And as he goes through New York, he can see around him that the city is basically in a state of disarray, and he begins to get paranoid that there is a conspiracy against him or that there is a plot to kill him. The film itself, really interesting. It's kind of weird because Cronenberg is doing a very detached and cold style, but it's basically up to 1,000 in that version.
These go to 11.
Cosmopolis as a film is so alienating and so cold that it becomes really hard to have any sort of affection for it as a piece of art. But it's a good film in that sense. Robert Pattinson is great in it. It's really darkly funny. The book itself, I'd heard Don DeLillo is an absolute giant in American literature, but he's also responsible for really iconic books like White Noise and Underworld, White Noise of which was adapted by Noah Baumbach, I think a few years ago now. I'm just very interested to read this. I wanted to read it since I saw the film, basically. And I'm curious to see how it differs from the film, whether I prefer the book or whether it is still very alienating, and whether if I even get it. Essentially, that's what I've got on my TBR for this month. I would be curious to see if I actually stick to it. I've been very bad the past few months. I will try and make some more videos over the coming few weeks, and hopefully you'll get a reading romance part 2 and 3 if you enjoyed those videos. If you didn't, I'm very sorry to say there will be more of them. Aside from that, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video, whatever the hell that will be. So, see ya.